Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Witcher Bloodletting Session 12. Chip off the old block, actually spelt correctly and correctly put on Twitch titles
Actually,
and all that
it's not
stuff.
welcome back for me.
Actually, it is because you were in chat before, so you were here. And now you're
Actually.
back too. Okay.
No.
What's up?
Oh no.
What's up? How we doing? Good. Good.
Huh? Hello?
Glad to hear it. So how you feel? So it's literally one of those things where you guys kind of like wake up. You come to. Sorry, not you guys. You come to their Neil, and your character is just like, ugh. So I'm sure you got filled in, but the short version was you kind of like took a step back and were like, what the? You took a step back, fell down. One of the horses turned to stone, as we described. Another horse kind of freaked out and booted you in the side of the head, knocked you unconscious. You just kind of come into, okay? You have Zadal, you heard his voice, and you didn't really get to see him because you heard his voice as he was walking off. And I have to stop and say for a second, little bit drops are always fun. Because, like, I know obviously some people are, like, super generous and do these huge bit drops, and it's always super appreciated. But when the little ones just, like, fall like crazy, it's just always fun because it fills the jar. So, anyways, you kind of come to and you hear Zadal, which is nice because you saw him a couple of seconds beforehand, so it kind of confirms that thought. You're a bit hazy or whatever, but no status effects. You look up to see all three of your companions there.
And Brian.
Oh, whew. Wow. So Civil War went ahead then. Oh, what happened?
You took a nap, buddy.
How many
Right.
fingers am I holding up?
Wait. Your horse turned to stone for some reason.
Why? It wasn't my
Your
horse.
horse turned to stone.
What? No. He
Yeah.
looks. He looks frantically for Dune. He's like, where is he?
As you like look around for a second, like you get like dizzy just but you look around and you can very easily discover which one's yours. You've ridden on it for a couple days. You had a unique experience with it. You know which one's yours.
Excuse me. On stream, Scott.
Well, I mean, it's also you have what would be considered an Arabian, which is funny because usually those horses are meant for like lighter people. You know, you're kind of a big boy for riding such a thoroughbred horse, but you know,
You calling him fat?
You're just gonna take that?
he's a big boy.
Damn.
I mean,
Yeah.
how much does your character weigh again?
I don't know. I haven't really decided. I don't
40
think.
kilograms, so get wrecked.
I may have decided in a previous one, but I've not written it down. So
Gotcha. That's fine. So keep going. You always describe him as a big boy, and he's kind of tall.
he's a big boy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
No. All right. So
We don't
I
have
is.
scales in these day and ages.
you see that the horse is fine. You know what I mean? So it's good, except for the one that's kind of like reared up or whatever and turned to stone. What do you guys do about poor Brand's horse?
My horse is fine.
Bastion's horse. Sorry, Bastion's horse.
I was gonna say my horse kicked him in the head. He's fine.
Oh,
Give it.
that's not my horse, Best. That's your horse there, mate.
Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure that's yours, and mine is that beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, no, that one's mine, mate.
At least I tried.
Wait, what color do you see that horse as? And I point to Dune.
Well, he's a sort of lovely sort of tan.
What? No, that horse is white. You sure you didn't get kicked too hard? That's
Oh,
Bastion's
well,
horse.
that explains why you're a lovely shade of tan.
So
Yeah.
fun fact: Arabians tend to be like a solid color, mid-brown, and have very very dark tails and manes. So, but they can vary from color when they're not like thoroughbred, designed for like hard racing, so on and so forth. So you can have variations. So, you guys kind of like have this little bickering back and forth about the horses, and you know, fun stuff. But eventually, the kind of like gravity sets in that Craig, you know, and Malvoon, and you still had your debate about the eye and the debate about whether or not you're even supposed to be helping these people, et cetera, et cetera. But first and foremost, you do need to get back to Malvoon. for at the very least being Aaron's boy for Zadal and letting him know what's going on, and if not, just to at least break the contract that you're currently in. So I do have to ask, what is your current riding arrangements? Because you do have one of the horses currently stoned and no means of fixing it at the moment.
Bran can ride with Bastion.
My horse is the shitty one, so I don't know. Its ankle got magic.
Its other ankle.
Its soul is hurt.
It does have
So-
best of ankle.
We do have a fucked up horse. So we have 2 good horses.
Yep.
You can ride with Leonard.
They are the 2 light guys, so, you know, they're the lightest ones.
They're also, you know, practically bum buddies already.
You could also just choose to teleport back there if you'd like, Brad.
Huh?
I'm too exhausted to do that right now.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just when I started playing The Witcher 3, I just noticed like they fucking teleport everywhere.
We do. That's because of plot. You know, you're dealing with big characters, big plot, so on and so forth. So,
It's because it'd be boring to run for like half an hour.
I mean,
Yeah, true.
I always liked in games like Assassin's Creed and whatnot, we had to do like a lot of running and the side quests that you got.
Yeah, but that's very fun running in Assassin's Creed.
No.
That's-
I meant
barely
horse,
fast travel in The
horsebacks,
Witcher 3,
Damascus to you know. So anyways, so you guys are gonna have to make your trek back there. It took you a long ride to get here. Don't forget, it's the better part of a day. Do you spend the night before you go, or do you turn back immediately? Go ahead.
Is it worth just
I would
checking the camp?
advocate absolutely for just chilling near a fire because I'm exhausted.
And what were you asking?
Is it worth just checking the camp? The dwarves fled in panic. It might just be another horse just hitched somewhere.
The dwarves don't have horses or anything like that. It makes them too obvious to find.
Yeah, they dig holes. Like moles.
We'll take the whole.
Like moles.
So
Do they have large riding moles?
So would you push back, like start the trek back now, or would you want to rest first before you start immediately trekking back? Like, which is the better option?
I need my sleep.
Yeah, if Bran said that he needed to rest a bit, I'd definitely be like, all right, we can take some time to.
Fine.
So, does anyone have a lantern?
Why?
Well, I figure for as long as we're going to be keeping this eye, we may as well put it somewhere safe. If we seal the lantern with wax, we can pickle the eye and shutter it to stop it from turning anyone to stone.
Or, better idea, not turning anyone to stone. We just squish it. Really hard.
I have a chest that I can keep it in.
Oh, he's got a chest. Great. Okay. Let's put it in the chest.
What if you hold on to the chest and I hold on to the key? That way it can't be used for anything like that unless we both, coordinate that.
That's fine.
Does that make you feel more comfortable, Leonard?
No, he wants to squish it.
I really want to squish it.
Fair enough.
But this is a middle ground I think I can bear for a little while.
So you guys lock it up. One has the item, the other has the means to get to the item, and that just kind of works for now. Sure, either of you could easily smash the thing open, but it would take effort and everybody would notice, right?
I add it to my eye collection next to my Eye of Newt.
Oh, yeah. You guys do spend the night resting, trying to rest throughout the night. Do you spend it like inside the cave itself? What's the plan?
I probably firebolt a fire and just chill in the cave.
Okay, so you just light up a fire inside there, and eventually, as time comes back, you guys all rest. I imagine Bran is the one that literally just sleeps like a baby. He's 2 levels of exhaustion. He just passes the F out. So you guys end up spending the night's rest. People start filtering the way back in. By morning, Most of those that have survived have made their way back in. It's kind of like they have their method of where they're supposed to scramble, and some peoples are meant to scramble to a means that they can watch. Some scramble to a means where they need to be retrieved after X amount of time, leave, and others are meant to scramble to get out, unless some actively go out and find them back. And so, unfortunately, that's what ends up happening because of this situation. Like I said, most of them come back, but unfortunately, even though she's a good friend of yours, Brelka does say that she has to go and lead a group of people to find the ones that are meant to scramble because of it's one of those ideas that some people are more significant or more vulnerable, so they're not supposed to turn back because that makes them too easy to be able to capture if things go awry. So she's, has quick conversations with you guys and, wishes you best of luck and understands that you guys are not meant to be, this was not an accident. Sorry, this was an accident. It was not on purpose. Unfortunately, not everybody feels that way. Iga, who is the other one of his daughters, the one that keeps like oral records and whatnot. She actually is very, very upset with you guys because of the situation. Blames it on, more or less is blaming it on you, and there's kind of a group of people around her. But you have had very little experiences with her in general, so it's kind of like a fuck off situation. And moving on. I will, however, say that before you guys end up leaving in the morning, you do come to realize something very unfortunate. One of your horses was killed through the night. So very just pissed off with the situation, how everything had played out, so on and so forth. You had somebody had acted out against you guys, completely blaming you.
What can we blame that one for, Daelric?
Could you roll me an investigation check?
Oh, absolutely.
Whose horse?
They were fucking expensive horses.
Whose horse is it?
You very quickly find out, Leonard, that it was Unbond that had done this.
Oh, I'ma kill that man.
So before we have full reactions, we do have to decide which horse had received the blow. We have to have a die roll. Hold on. I'm going to be nice, though. I'm going to be nice. If it's a D10, who doesn't have a horse right now? Bastion, I'll let you roll. It's a D10. On a 1 through 5, it's Brand's horse. Okay? On a 6, 7, 8, it's Leonard's. And on a 9 or a 10, it's Tal's. That puts the odds in your favor.
Roll like shit. Roll like shit.
I agree. Whew, I saw the 10. It was there.
So the injured horse, what happens is Unbond actually went over and he cut the horses free. And at first the horses, they got cut free, but they're actually well-behaved horses, so they didn't do anything wrong. So and then he gets pissed off. He's so angry about everything. Oh, cut the horses free. They don't run off because they're well trained. So then eventually he's just takes his axe and hurls it across the way at the horses, probably trying to scare them, but embeds the axe in the side of the horse that already had the bent leg, and so it tries to run off with an axe in its ribs as it tries to run off, pained and whinnying, and he ends up chasing the thing down and lines up another crossbow bolt and fires at it and kills it. We're talking complete savagery, just utter savagery. What ends up happening is he covers up his tracks well enough, being a scout and everything. Others clearly realize what happened, yelling, the horses whinnying, screams, so on and so forth. They clearly realize what happened, get your attention. Leonard goes out there. Leonard very quickly puts 2 and 2 together of who it was that did it. He knows those bolts. He goes and finds, the way that the feather was kind of bent coming off the bolt, assumes it's him, grabs the crossbow, fires 2 bolts off that crossbow, sees the way that affects the feathers the same way, does it actual investigative work. You know what I mean? Because obviously you're working with Zadal here. He's not just going to allow you to just murder a bitch, right? And Zadal actually steps in and says, more or less, he's gone one bridge too far. You know what I mean? He actually is set to be imprisoned. It's a heightened situation. Unless one of your characters goes out of their way to actively try to kill him, I imagine swings might happen here and there, but Zadal will actually have him imprisoned and lets you guys know that there will be actual critical punishment that happens to him for his actions, and apologizes to you for it, but doesn't have a means to replace the horse.
He should have to pay for it. In band.
He so bringing that to an RP thing, he should have to play for. He's like, and he will pay for it. He will.
No, I mean the monetary value of the horse.
He waves his hand about the camp and the situation that they're in, reminding you of the gravity of their situation. And says,
Did that to him, dude.
They don't have shit.
I mean,
They just got fucked. They don't. They can't pay for the horse.
he has a nice dwarven axe and a nice dwarven crossbow.
very well. His crossbow is, it's a solid crossbow. It's good quality. It's good craftsmanship. And the axe, he says, and he actually picks up the axe and he looks it over, looks it back and forth. Very well. He goes over and he hands the crossbow and the axe to, whose horse was it? Bran's? To Bran.
Yeah.
And he honestly, you can tell in Zadal's eyes, like, he's happier it's going to Bran than anybody else, considering what Bran already did for him. He's happier it's going to Bran. So he takes them and gives them to him and says, monetary value returned.
Were it any other
No.
man in charge, I would be displeased with the situation, but I have faith that you will handle this properly.
Probably best to not hurt him. No. Considering your situation, you probably need every dwarf that you have.
Traitor's no better alive than he is dead.
He's not a traitor. He's just stupid, and he's if he's present, he like throws him like a nasty look.
Is he present at all?
Oh yeah, he's in the cell that you were held in for
Yeah,
a
we're
while.
doing this right in front of the cell, just like giving
Yeah.
his shit away.
He throws him a nasty look when he calls him stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna actually walk over to the cell.
He starts cursing in Dwarven, saying things about you and the fact that you're just a filthy human and so on and so forth. You walk over to the cell, Bastion.
Yeah, and I'm gonna sort of. Is he like at the back of the cell, just kind of standing?
Remember,
away?
the thing is, like, it's a wooden structure. It's like set in the middle,
Yeah.
so you can easily walk 360 around it.
Yeah, you were in there for a few days.
Yeah, but no, he's not in the back. He's not a shy away kind.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how. Like, is he like right up against the bars, or is he just?
Oh yeah,
sitting
he'll be
there?
holding onto the bars, staring you down as you come up to him, or staring you up.
I
Would
know
I
you
be
don't
able to
like
st-
us.
Steer you up.
What are you gonna say, Bram?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, like, would I be able to better understand him cursing in Dwarvish now that I've been trying to spend some time actively trying to, like, brush up on my Dwarvish and Elder speech?
Sure, he's swearing at you.
He's just saying nonsensical, racist things.
Nice.
Nothing that matters at the moment. Go ahead.
I know you don't like us very much, but we are going to have to work together. And while they might not forgive you for what you just did to his horse, I understand that it was an accident and a stupid mistake. And I want us to be able to work together. And I know that they need your help at this camp.
Zadal listens to this, and he says, and he looks like almost flabbergasted, and he's kind of, he looks to you, and he starts a sentence to you, but kind of like spans it out to the rest of him, and says, are you looking to not press charges?
No, I think he does deserve punishment. I simply want
There
him
is
to
room in
know-
your heart for forgiveness. Understood.
Yes.
Then allow us to do things that we need to do, and you need to do things that you need to as well. The people in Crag are suffering while we stand around and quabble about a horse and bows. So you do what must be done. I'll handle the details here, and they will get handled. He says, kind of like throwing a heavy look towards way of the cell.
Yeah, I was mostly like with that trying to convince the dwarf in the middle that we're on his side, that we're not just assholes.
I mean, that's unfortunately, and I know you understand this.
Yeah.
That it's a hard convincing.
Oh,
His
You're-
mind is set in stone.
Ah.
Not anymore.
So it's just a hard thing, but it's definitely like the effort is appreciated. You know what I mean? So by everybody else, by those that you kind of like have a rapport with. And so you guys are able to make your way out of the camp.
I
Unfortunately,
actually
with
think we should let him go free.
You do?
Talsis.
Yeah.
Are you saying that in
I was like, I think he should go free. He's learnt the lesson of losing his arms. When he first met me, I said to him to fire his crossbow and prove to me that he's the beast that many humans think dwarves are. And now I'm going to show him that humans are not all the beasts that he thinks we are.
That's great. Telebest, really, honestly. But a disobedient soldier is...
He's not a soldier.
They're all soldiers, Telebest.
Not out of choice. It's fight or die for them.
Or not. It's...
Because he was standing next to him anyways while you guys are quabbling back and forth, he actually is going to quietly, somewhat under his breath, because you guys are spread out, some by the sail, some of, so on and so forth. He's actually kind of under his breath say to Bran, because you guys are quabbling, what do you think of this?
Honestly, Tal's heart's in the right place, but I do think he requires a bit of disciplining. If we are to work together, this can't happen again. This will slow us down for quite a while. It will take us longer to get to town and then get horses to get to Craig.
He nods and holds his hand and takes steps forward, trying to silence everybody. I imagine the two of you do, but not maybe as quickly as the dwarves would as well. Just out of respect. And he says, your opinion on the matter is appreciated. There will be a bit of lenience because of your request here, human. However, punishment still needs to be done because the wishes of the camp and the best of those around him have been violated. There's been violence for no reason. We will punish him for his actions. Now, let us end this debate because it's not yours to have. Hopefully I see you soon, and hopefully with better news than what we currently have weighing on our hearts.
Very wise.
He then will order the rest of the scout group that goes with Obans typically. He orders them to escort you guys as far as the river to make sure that nothing else goes wrong. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where he has them all do so and has them walk past Oband in the cell as he does so. It's kind of like a show, because again, dwarves are stubborn, so like stubborn to the point where it's just genuinely annoying. Like you're like really like that this is good pie. Why do you still have to think it's bad pie? Like why? So
place, Daelric, this pie.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Dwarves are stubborn, like arguing with somebody on Reddit. You know what I mean? Just to make it real world. So
arguing on the internet in general, more like.
So you guys watch as he's kind of forcing this to Obans, I'm going to build your walls up greater before I break them down, sort of a thing, for whatever benefit that might have. And then you guys are escorted as far as the now again, you have two now that are on horse, two that aren't. I honestly don't care about the marching order or who is what, where, when, why now. It doesn't matter, because with somebody throwing out a party fumble, specifically asking for the horses again, you guys just have a slower trek to make your way down there.
Can we have a triumph that's hey, you all get godlike horses now that won't ever die?
I mean,
because this is costing us a lot of fucking money. I was tempted to get Bran some training at some point, and I was like, yeah, we don't have the money anymore.
I did hand out triumphs from hitting those awesome donation goals from last month, which I didn't set up this month because I knew my streaming was going to be a bit off this month. So
and I've seen two people in chat that have those triumphs.
Yep. So just saying. And those were randomly selected. It's not like I hand selected those people, so that's why people like Frank have them, which I don't think Frank's ever been to the stream. But he goes to other ones.
Give a triumph to Frank, you're guaranteed he'll never use it.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. So you guys make your way down there. Again, it's a bit slower than you would have liked it to be, considering the gravity of the situation. But you make your way down to the river. When you're down at the riverbed, any of you guys trying to be friendly towards these dwarves as you go? Any more so than usual, or just normal?
I'm being friendly.
Okay.
More so than usual, yeah, definitely.
You two roll me flat charisma checks. The other two do not, and that's fine. Okay.
I'm a charming boy.
My monitor that I have you guys on is hooked up with is it DVI? Is that the digital video input? I think is what it is. And unfortunately, the cord is. I'm gonna have to buy a better cord. It's starting to flash, and it's gonna get me freaking out soon if I don't fix it during the next break.
Are we flashing you?
Because
Get DisplayPort.
this is DisplayPort. That's what it is. This is DisplayPort, which unfortunately DisplayPort's like garbage compared to HDMI. But I have like
Totally untrue.
I've spoken to a ton of people that use DisplayPort and hate all of them. Like Lord Minion fucking hates DisplayPort. Mathis hates, like, they only have issues on the DisplayPort, never on HDMI. And unfortunately, I have an awesome graphics card, but it only has one HDMI and 3 DisplayPorts that are just connected. It's just awful.
I'm gonna argue with this over the break, not now.
Sure. And if you know a way to make it better, awesome. But in the meanwhile, so we you actually, Bastion, unfortunately, it's kind of like you kind of get a little bit of a leg up because you were the one that stepped forward and was. I'm just gonna move you guys over here. I'm gonna go crazy. So you kind of get a leg up. Sorry, everybody, this is throwing off the stream for a second. You kind of get a leg up in the conversation because how bad is this now? So I did that. Does this fix it? Hold on. This threw it off a little. Sorry, everybody. I think Tal's just a bit thrown off, but I just have to ignore that screen for a second. So, anyways, you guys actually you get a little bit of a leg up because of the fact that you had said the words that you did to be forgiving to the to them. But it's actually Bran, when they heard what you did, how you sacrificed yourself to be successful, so on and so forth, like, you actually make closer ties with them. These dwarves, if any of them were in the camp of him, by the time you guys finish this trek, they're completely, like, on your side. Who cares? You make your way finally back to Curious, which is the name of the city that you guys were in beforehand. Curious.
Shrink the Zoom meeting screen?
Not exactly. Like I said, it's the stream's thrown off a little bit just because I think I switch. Oh, you know what it is? This monitor over here doesn't have my start bar at the bottom, but this one does, so it makes it all just like, what's that, like a half-inch smaller?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's just what it is. So I'm going to unplug my DisplayPort, see if I can fix this. So you guys make your way back to the city and try to find Malvoon. So I'll DM, while I'm fixing this. So you guys are trying to find Malvoon and are easily able to make your way back there to do so. So yeah, you're back to Malvoon and go to speak to him. When you get back there, was there anything else that you needed to do, or is it literally just get to him because of the whole scenario, or anything else you guys talk about along the way?
Wait. How did we get? We just walked, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Better
I try to make small talk with you
better part of a day.
about, like, Witcher stuff, because I'm curious.
Me or Bastion?
Both of you.
What kind of Witcher stuff?
Yeah, what specifically? Like,
You know how what being a witch is like, why
Awful.
witches are so rare nowadays.
Tells like, I'm not a witcher.
Oh,
Yeah,
Tal's
you-
got
you-
brain hair.
If I had a horse, I would get it to kick you in the head again, but
Sorry, everything's about to get thrown off for a second. I do apologize. As long as the stream's still functioning, so.
honestly, it's
wait
been
a
thrown
second.
off like 10 minutes ago.
There we go. Okay. So unplugging that.
Are you sure it's DisplayPort and not DVID or something like that?
Nope, it's definitely a DisplayPort. It's definitely a DisplayPort one. You know what I mean? Looks like HDMI, but comes to a slant. So definitely a DisplayPort. So I know it's all good. I'm just gonna fix this while you go. So you're talking to him about being a Witcher, and
Yeah, what it's like to be a witcher, why it seems like there's so few witches around lately, and, like, I don't know, just things like, you guys have a place where you train, that sort of thing. So basically, it's just trying to find out about you guys and witches and cool stuff.
So before I allow that to RP, if that's something that you care to do, I will say that one of the big things that you do know is that witches were never very common. Like, the fact that you have bumped into the number of witches that you have thus far in this campaign is extremely uncommon. The idea of 3 of them in one location that isn't a training school, again, extremely uncommon. So that's just kind of like something that you would know as both a PC and as a character to start. Now, if you guys choose to RP anything beyond that, that's up to you, but feel free to, you don't have to. You know what I mean? There we go.
yeah, I mean, I imagine I'd go into at least a little bit of detail of, like, what it's been like up until this point.
Okay, cool. Any details that you feel like covering, or just like basic stuff that somebody would know just by playing the games?
I mean, I probably wouldn't even really necessarily talk about being a Witcher specifically, unless a specific question was asked. I'd probably talk mostly about my life as a Witcher, you know? So it'd be a lot of personal stories.
Okay, awesome. So you just kind of give personal stories about what it's like to like go hunting monsters, things like that. Okay, cool. So then we won't waste any more time.
Things like training, that sort of thing.
Thank you for doing filler while I fix that. So you guys make your way there. You learn a little bit about what it means to be a Witcher, what that experience is like, so on and so forth. Leonard is probably a lot more guarded about that, but that makes sense because the cat school is guarded in general. And you might even have Bastion himself tell you. They won't tell you anything. They don't tell us anything. So you guys make your way there. You find Malvoon. Once again, it's really, really easy for you to do because you're familiar with him, so on and so forth. You come back with only your 2 horses. It's actually a funny little scene when you check in only 2 horses at the stables. One of them, you had already switched out so he's already met Dune before. So when you check in only 2 horses at the stables, he kind of like questions it. Imagine there's like an aggravated, don't even ask. And then you go to find Malvoon. One more thing I do want to point out on the way, just to sidetrack even more. If you didn't notice it immediately, Bran, then Leonard, just being as incredibly perceptive as he is, kind of looking over the equipment, like the stuff that was gotten from them being aggressive in the scenario.
Good throwing
one. You actually would have realized that axe happened to be Mahawken steel as well. Did I say that right?
Did?
Yeah, Mahawken steel as well. So that actually also is a +1 chance to hit, +1 damage battle axe, which is a 1d8 weapon. So just that you're aware. But that crossbow, it's just well-made crossbow, nothing beyond that. So you guys can choose who carries the axe. I don't care. It's made out of steel. So you guys meet up with Malvoon. When you meet up with him and you meet with him in his quarters, and this is actually the first time he's actually going to invite you to his home. This is nowhere near that basement where you had met with him beforehand. We kind of like pulled a bunch of stuff out and showed it to you. This is actually inside of his home. His home is over in the wealthier district. He does have a decent place. It's not like he has a whole house to himself. He actually has like a floor of a building. So the building itself has a shop down below. It's like a butchery, so like a meats down there. It's a butcher's shop down below, and you go up the stairs above it, and a small portion of the second floor is where like the butcher has his home. And then like there's like a bit of an office or whatever where the butcher kind of like handles a bit of stuff. Another bit of like a rented space that goes for somebody else. And then actually a third floor above that is where Malvoon rents the entire floor to himself. So you take like an indoor access to the third floor. And he welcomes you into his house. His house is actually rather simple. It's not like it's like super ornate. There's not like tons of stuff everywhere, so on and so forth. He does have like his one room where there's a bunch of books and everything set up there, where he does have like bits hanging from like the sides of the walls or on the walls, or he has like a area, like a table where he has stuff set up on the table that you imagine are important to his types of rituals and everything. Probably the most disturbing, if you want to call it that, part of his collection is he has a whole collection of blades on a table that lay out on like a leather cloth that anybody that's kind of familiar with that thing is known to be like easily like to wrap up. You only see the hilts of the blades, but judging by the sizes, shapes, and designs of the hilts, you imagine the blades are very varied. I would say out of all of you, the person that's familiar with this the most would be Leonard, being familiar that this is kind of the types of tools that you would use for like torturing. You would actually see this as being like torture device tools.
Yeah, I'd know those.
The other two of you...
Would Bran have some familiarity with those as well?
No, Bran wouldn't at all. But the other two of you would probably look at them and think of more like skinning tools or something that you would use for like taxidermy or like, collecting parts. But moving on. So he invites you into his home, and it's cordial. He's not rude or anything like that. And then when he goes in and he shuts the door, he goes over and invites you, because I imagine, and the only reason I brought all this up is because the doors in his house are open. So like you kind of like go over to where you're going to sit, and you look around, you peek in the rooms. Leonard, of course, I imagine is being very like lingering looks inside each of the areas, always looking for escapes and routes. And so when he has you take a seat, it's not like he has like this huge couch or tons of sitting space. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of chairs put together, 2 comfortable ones, and the rest of them are just kind of pulled over. He obviously sits in one of the comfortable chairs. I don't care which one of you sits in the other one. And he says, he opens up the conversation, having already done the greetings. I'm glad to see that you all came back and that you're all well. When I say well, you still have one level of exhaustion, Bran, just so you know. Because you have no means of curing that. So he says, I'm glad to see that you're all back and you're all doing well. You defeated the beast?
Yes. The camp is safe.
Nods. I'm glad to hear that. Well, Zadal, is he well?
Stoned by your beast.
At first.
You scared me for a moment, Tal. At first, you were able to... How?
We were able to recover some saliva of the beast. Upon closer inspection, it turned out that that was the antidote to being turned to stone by its gaze.
Its gaze
We were
turns
able
stone.
to extract some. Unfortunately, well, I had a bit of a, let's just say, fairy tale moment. I tried to invoke the legends of yore and use the magics of the area to turn Zodal back to flesh. It worked, but in the process, I must have touched upon a wrong branch of the winds of magic, and it turned me into stone instead. So we had to use some of the saliva to bring me back.
You don't quite look yourself. Do you still have a bit of the stone magics inside of you?
Not gonna lie, I spent a while as a statue, and it leaves an imprint on you.
That leads me to ask several things that I would want to understand about what it is that this creature can do. Perhaps it's a bit early or a bit forward of me to ask, but I would love samples of your blood and marrow, and see what it is I can discover from the effects of this creature, since they still seem to be lingering in your body. But we can
have a discussion on that later.
Yes.
There are other matters at hand.
And to those matters, you said that you had left an egg there and 2 elsewhere?
Yes, we took a contract in Craig to slay a basilisk, which turned out to be, I think it were wyverns?
It was
Forktails. But
Forktails, that's it, yeah.
there were basilisks there at one point, but we only found their eggs bathed in your friend's.
Yes, I'm
bloody
familiar
ritual.
with what had transpired. So let's discuss the little details. Due to the nature of survivability, reptiles tend to be born around the same time when in the same nest. If not, the other young could cannibalize the ones that are hatched. If they're hatched too much later, they'll be weaker, a bit stunned coming into the world, tired from hatching through the egg. So they generally hatch about the same time as one another for increased survivability. In the same nest, they're separated, not by much, but still different climates. They're separated not by much, but different temperatures, and then beyond that, we don't know what it is that wherever you left those eggs versus the cave, where we don't know what extremes that might be. And that could cause a change in when they would have hatched. That's concerning. I imagine you intend to resolve this?
Yes.
We heard
One
any
way or
news
another.
from Craig?
Shakes his head. There was a promise for you to have, if you could save them, the camp. And as far as you're explaining to me now, Zadal as well, and the camp as well.
Zadal as well. A few of the dwarves remain stone to date, but we have a vial of diluted saliva. It's mixed with blood. We should be able to purify it through the means of alchemy. And maybe we could apply some magical ingredients to dilute it without losing its potency, so that we can have a cure on hand.
It's a brilliant plan. It's a task for me, though, not a task for you.
Yes.
I will see to it that I right the wrongs that I've done in what has happened to these people, and potentially what might happen to more. So that'll be a task for me to handle, and I would ask that you would give me that saliva so I may do so. But you did uphold your end of the bargain. In traveling there, I offered you a blade. And he actually looks and sees that it's on Bastion, and says, and I hope it serves you well. But I've also offered you my services in exchange for having Zadal survive. I still offer you those services, but it's not an easy task. It requires a week's time to take full effect, and I would require whoever it is that's aiding me to be with me that whole week. So while I do offer you that ritual on one of your blades, I would have to hold it off until after you come back from your visit to Craig. Understood?
That makes sense.
As for your visit to Craig, you're witchers. You don't do dangerous tasks without some sort of benefit, or at least two of you are. If you go there and are able to slay both those beasts, handle the problem, I will offer you a reward as well.
Look, I don't like looking a gift horse in the mouth, but what do you have benefiting from helping Craig?
Helping right the wrongs he has made.
Craig is another home of mine. I have 4 estates. Craig is one of them, and I have friends there that are undoubtedly have suffered since the approach of the witch hunters. You've already given me news of some, and I imagine that others have had their lives made even far worse by myself. I wish to ease that pain, if not right the wrongs that I've done. So, if you go there, if you are able to defeat the beasts, and I am actually willing to offer you my estates there. I'm willing to give you my home. It's a place for you to stay. It's a place for you to keep. The deed will be yours. Keep it for you to rest in, or sell it as you will. I'll have to collect things from it because the belongings there will still be mine, but I will give you my home. It does have value if that's the selling it's the way you choose to go. But I'm going to be bold here. If you can capture one of them alive and bring it back so I can do further experimentation with the creation, then I will owe you a debt, to say the least.
Capturing it would be a greatly difficult task. We would have to have... Well, I have manacles on hand, but those are for a humanoid, of course.
I have a companion, a friend of mine, one that is adept in crafting things far greater than myself. I intend to work with her to see what could be discovered and what could be crafted from this beast. If you aid me in capturing this thing and returning it to me, of all the devices that I craft from it, the first pick will be yours. It'll be unique, to say the least. He kind of like gets self-conscious for a moment as he's kind of like in his own head and realizes he said to say the least like 7 times in this conversation.
There is one slight matter that
One?
we were able to salvage an eye from the critter. We could use that to try and determine a method to devise some sort of hood for the creature that would render its gaze meaningless for safe transport.
He thinks about what you're describing and says, you've taken parts of it. Of course you've taken parts of it, which is always dismantle the creatures they slay. Please
Yes,
lay upon the
I took-
table in front of me what it was that you've collected.
I took
Just-
special interest in the eye due to
just
the
the eye.
nature of it.
What's that, Leonard?
Just the eye. That's all we took from it.
That's actually not entirely sure. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
that's
I'm-
the intent, like
that's-
XP, but yeah,
Yeah.
we're just telling him just the eye, yeah.
But there's also, but you also explicitly took like scale and tooth and stuff
So
like
we're
that.
not mentioning that.
So
But
you
yes.
specifically say the eye, and if nobody else says otherwise, he kind of like if he knows that you're lying, he doesn't show any sign of it. least that you can pick up. And so do you put the eye in front of him? Obviously, like you have it sealed.
It's still
you
in the
should say.
chest.
Yeah.
I've been lugging it around now that my horse is dead.
Okay.
I guess put the chest and the key on the table and look away.
Okay.
Yes, be careful not to look at it. I put the key on the table.
You also had it wrapped up in like a leather or whatever it was before, so he takes it out and he takes it out inside the leather, and he's actually going to like open up the leather and places his hand inside of it to kind of like give the thing a feel and whatnot, but doesn't actually like open up completely to look at it or anything like that. He says, "Well, we've all been in the room with it while it was covered by leather. Perhaps just simply covering your eyes is enough to do the trick, but I think you want something that's going to be a bit more beneficial than that."
Yes. Something that we could attach to it so that it would remain.
Devising an item like what you're like what you're suggesting takes time. Takes more than what I'd be able to do, especially assuming if you're going to head out in the next day or two. I don't think I'd be able to aid you like that. I don't think so. I suppose the best that you could do is approach the thing blind.
How big is its head roughly? Like we faced one before. How big was its head?
Remember, it was a baby. It was small, but I described it as about being the size of a smaller dog. You know what I mean? As
So
being
we
like
could
like a
potentially,
corgi.
if we get like a big enough leather pouch, we could like put it over its head and like tie it shut.
Yep.
Okay.
Also, with things like alligators and whatnot, it's not uncommon to blind them. To have like not only do you like wrap around their mouth so they can't snap at you, but you also will put like blinders on them so they can't see things as well to react to them. You know what I mean?
For you boys that like wrestling gators.
Yeah. No, mind you, alligators have like absolutely terrible vision anyways. They rely on things like sound and sight, but it just makes things even more difficult for them. You also know with things like horses as well. You put blinders on their sides to give them kind of tunnel vision so they don't get distracted or spooked by things. So stuff like that,
Yeah,
of course,
but
exists.
that's different from like bagging things to make sure it doesn't turn into stone.
Of course. So, when you make that kind of suggestion in game, he says, a leather bag, something to wrap around this creature's head, perhaps comprised of a stronger or a studded leather, something like that can be procured. That shouldn't be an issue. I should get that for you easily.
Right. We also ran into a bit of difficulty at the camp afterwards. Tempers flared and our means of transport are somewhat inhibited. Aside from the eye accidentally turning one of our horses into stone, one of the dwarves decided to take matters into his own hands. And one of our horses was slain, unfortunately.
He nods. Says, that is unfortunate. Sounds like Zadal has his hands full. So then
Yes.
on to other matters. We agree that you need to head to Craig so that you will handle this. He looks about everybody, kind of like looking for even nods from three of you. And says, and you'll be rewarded as such, as I've stated. But we had another task for you. You were trying to magically breach the contract that you had set up with the witch hunters. And I told you there was ingredients that need to be collected to make this happen. I've been busy, and have been collecting those because we have been progressing in our relationship along the way. But there is a core ingredient that I need that you must collect for me. It doesn't matter how you get it, but the one that you actually made the contract with, I need a sample of his blood after the contract is made. So if you have a sample of it from beforehand, it will not matter. He says, making it like kind of assuming you guys might have his blood already, which is a little weird. But I need a new sample. Have you a sample from after you had already struck the deal? Or is that something that you need to procure?
Were I to have his blood sample, he would be a smear on the wall. Unfortunately, no. Us who do not dabble with the magics of blood do not exactly have the habits of taking frequent blood samples of everyone we meet.
I don't need much. Not even enough to fill a vial. I need a few drops. Enough that could be used for a pen. Ink for a pen.
Well, let's hope that he's still in town then.
Nods. Well, I will leave it to you. Where things stand is unfortunately in the ether. Once again, you must go and handle these basilisks, or you choose to go and handle these basilisks. You must collect that blood, and then we can all move forward with what it was that we're working on. Or at least
Malvoon,
move back to our lives.
what would you say the cost of your estate in Craig is?
Prior to what you've described happening in Craig, a small fortune. With the recent happenings, perhaps the value of property in that city has gone down.
Whereabouts is it in Craig? Might be worth having a look.
I like to keep with those that are willing to spend money but don't necessarily want others knowing what they're paying for. So I live over in the more noble area. Actually, a neighbor of mine, if you would like to call him that. You can see his home from mine, not far off. Happens to be the lord of the one that runs the town, Lord Taviston.
Lord Taviston, also known as Ground Zero for the second instance. Well, sounds like we'll be swinging by your estate.
He nods and hands you a key. Again, the belongings there are mine, or at least most of them will be taken from me. Will be taken by me. The furnishings and the estates, should you succeed, will be yours.
Do you have anyone tending to your estate in your absence?
He thinks for a second and he says, "Not exactly, but not a no either."
I'm just asking in case we have anyone we need to be aware of in there that...
Shakes his head. He says, No. It's simple enchantments that keep things well enough."
Understood.
Very well. I think we probably need some more horses then.
Yes. Or a cart. And he just sort of smirks at him like, I bet your horse would be able to draw that cart with ease.
You showed him beforehand that you have a megascope, didn't you?
Don't think it's really come up.
We haven't even mentioned it since we got it. We've not talked about it at all.
Because I know we talked about it once in game, because you were asking like, oh, where is it? How big was the box? So on and so forth. Well after you had received it, but I didn't remember if it was in front of Malvoon or not. Okay.
No, it was probably on the road. Like, hey, I want to smash this. Who keeps it?
Yep. Gotcha.
No.
Honestly, Bran would probably be keeping the crystals on him because he knows they're magical.
Then never mind. I don't say anything. So you mentioned the whole horse situation. He says, I will pay to have horses rented for you.
Thank you.
Oh,
He nods. He gives you the amount of coin to cover that, so on and so forth. Just kind of like, move things along. So you guys, just a kind of checklist. You guys came here to talk about go to Craig, unfortunately, doing your contract, and then also the magic item that he was supposed to give to you, but that takes time, so we have to kind of hold that off for now. And so all that takes place. Honestly, the conversation happens pretty quickly. Like I said, it takes a better part of a day to begin travel, and it takes multiple days to get to Craig from here. So if you guys like, you could spend the night here before heading out, or if you want to save some time.
Bran is in favor of spending the night there because he's exhausted.
Fair enough.
Also, he wants to leave him a few drops of blood for the whole, like, oh, I want to study your blood for, like, the curse thing.
Are we leaving the vial with him? Are we definitely doing
Yeah,
that?
I imagine we're leaving the saliva with him because he's, like, good with that stuff.
For sure.
He seems legitimately wanting to help people and feels guilty.
Sure.
I keep the eye, though.
I mean, at the very least, he seems to want to help these people.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you guys are going to go and spend the night, but one more thing that we need to go over. So because of the fact you're spending the night not heading out immediately, Malvoon will, because you guys probably leave and set up your arrangements to spend the night, and then Malvoon will actually come and visit Bran, because you guys don't all hang out together all the time. You often break apart and come together. So at one point in time, when Bran's probably like sitting there reading his book that he's trying to understand, he will actually approach you. The others are off doing their own things in different places. You're probably in like a quieter spot, and he'll actually approach you, and it's one of those, like, you're engrossed in the book, and he sits down, and you notice him as he pulls out a chair to sit in front of you. And like, kind of, he does that like gesture, like, may I? You say, yeah. He sits down, and he says, good evening, Bran.
Hello, Malvoon.
I was wondering if I could have those samples before they work their way out of your system.
He's gonna bite
Fair
you.
enough.
He's gonna bite you.
So,
I see the reason for wanting to investigate. Although, I must imagine that having a look at Elder Blood must be exciting for you.
Wow, you're flirting with him.
You know, do me a favor. Roll me an insight. I'll actually give you advantage to that.
I was half jokingly gonna ask, like, I know this shit's valuable.
Okay, you can see like you can see that he doesn't show really any facial expression response. Like, and a regular person would normally have some sort of facial response. His is intentionally held no response. You know what I mean? So you kind of get that. And he says, I just need to continue my research, of course.
Of course. I will, like, I don't know, pinprick, like, leave a couple of drops there in a test tube or something.
He when you go to do that, like, you go to prick it, he shakes his head and says, to my estate, it's a bit more difficult to extract marrow.
Ah, yes. All right.
So when you head back to his estate, he does take blood from you. However, he actually has a syringe, like a needle that he pokes into you that hooks up to like a bit of a tube, and he takes a bit of blood from you. It's actually not a small amount. And he actually is also going to, unfortunately, to extract the marrow, he uses tools to do these sorts of things, not magic, because using magic when he's trying to take something that has magic in it, he's afraid of how it's going to interact. Also, what it might do with your Elder Blood, because Elder Blood could enhance the effect on you. So, do you know how you extract marrow in real life?
Yeah, does this boy have anesthesia? Because otherwise, Bran is not going to be holding still and is going to be screaming.
He's going to be cracking a bone open, isn't he?
Nah, so you get him on their side, and then you have a needle, a really thick needle, and you bore it into the back, because that's the hip, is the easiest place to go for it.
Ooh.
So the back of the hip, and he goes in there with the needle and then sucks out a load of bone marrow.
Does he have an anesthesia? Of course, but we're talking more rudimentary anesthesias, which what those do is they're like hallucinogenics. You know what I mean? So they're like, it's like when they used to have women give birth in the 1900s.
Give the Elder Blood source a hallucinogenic.
You're high as hell. You summon demons and they party.
So
You trigger my sore strength. I now see magic everywhere.
in the late early 1900s, when they'd have women give birth, instead of having things like epidurals and whatnot, they would give them like drugs that more or less made them not experience it. Like, you know, people always be like, well, in the old days we didn't have that. It's like, well, some of you didn't have it. Others of you just don't remember the experience because the heavy drugs they fucking put you on.
In the other days, you
It
were
was
off your
also
rocker,
a
mate.
lot more. It was also a lot more dangerous administering those sorts of drugs.
Oh, of course. So
Rip Bran.
So the experience you go through, Bran, unfortunately, is horrifying. And in the end, even though you do get that one night's rest, you still wake up the next day with 2 levels of exhaustion back on your character, which is just absolutely bad. And that's just because of, like, there is no con damage that really exists in this game on like a normal level. So in 5e, so he just goes through that, and it's just like you're in pain the next day. You're aching. No HP damage because, you know, you've healed yourself, and I imagine by now everybody's healed themselves well enough. I think you actually all have your HDs back. So the next day when you guys head out, Bran looks like shit again. Now, as a reminder, it took you guys some time to travel here. If I remember correctly, it took you about a day and a half to get to Carius from the Manhakan Mountains. You guys end up traveling a bit slower because of Bran's condition, which means that 2 days end up passing instead of the day and a half, unless you guys choose to push yourself. So you're going to be back up to your normal condition by the time you get there. You're still like in pain, like aching and whatnot, but like you're yourself, and everybody has all their conditions removed. So we're going to take our next break, and when we come back, you guys are going to be reapproaching Craig to see the situation that's going on there. Okay? So see you all in just a couple of minutes. Wrong click. That click.